It's wrap up time, and I don't know, I would like to know actually what my longest wrap up is this year, because thinking back, I used to read, some months I would read like 18 to 20 books years ago, back when I first started my channel. Like, how long were those wrap up videos? Because I even feel like now, even when I'm only reading like 4 or 5 books every month, I still talk for like 15 minutes about them. So I can't even imagine how long those old ones were. Also, apologies for the washer and dryer that you might be able to hear in the background. I know some people are so professional that they even turn off like their AC while they're filming videos. That's not gonna be me. I'm so sorry. I'm not stopping my laundry just to film a video quick. So sorry, you're gonna have that in the background today. Anyways, I have my July wrap up for you. I read 4 books. I read 4 thick books this month. Like, my pages read was a lot higher than any of my previous months, even though I've only read 4 books. And I thoroughly enjoyed each and every one of them. So actually, let's go ahead and do the 2 that I don't like physically own, and then we'll get into the 2 that I do. So first up, Black Widows by Kate Quinn. So this one is a thriller, and it's one that I checked out from my library. I got it as an ebook. This one is a polygamist thriller. So I got this as a recommendation from someone that I was talking to at a wedding a couple weeks ago, and as soon as she talked about it, I literally pulled out my phone, got on Libby, and requested it because I was like, I need that right now. So it follows Blake. Actually, Blake, you don't even ever meet him on page because he's dead, but he had 3 wives. And after he is found murdered out when he was out fishing on their like private piece of land where only the 4 of them know where this is, which is why then his wives are the suspects, because no one else knows where they live. His 3 wives become the prime suspects in his murder. And so his first wife, Rachel, she is very much the stereotypical kind of like first wife. She has a pretty dark background, but she kind of sees herself as a leader and kind of sees her as like the superior wife to all the other wives. So the other 2 don't really like her. Then the second one, Emily, you know, I don't really even know how to describe Emily except that she's a little spacey, kind of crazy a little bit. I personally loved reading her chapters because you truly never knew what was going to come out of her mouth. And then you have the third wife, Tina, who is his most recent wife, and she comes from a little bit of a rougher background. Like, she did not grow up as a part of the church. She's very much like a saved person. She was an addict, and she met Blake when she was in recovery, and he recruited her to be his third wife. So all of these wives have very different backstories and very different kind of relationships with Blake. So then as the investigation is unfolding, you learn like kind of why each wife would, you know, potentially have had issues with Blake. Also, you see them trying to like work together, even though they've never all really liked each other, but then also be suspicious of each other. It was great. It truly like kept me invested, and especially because the chapters were all like on Kindle. I always do the setting where you can see like how many minutes are left in the chapters, and I want to say maybe the longest chapter of the entire book was like 6 minutes long. Like, they were all super like 2 to 4 minute chapters, so it kept like the pace of the book moving fast. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm also just fascinated by like polygamy and by cults, but just because I think it's so like, oh my god. So yeah, very much enjoyed that. It was a nice thriller to switch it up with all the romances that I read. The next book that I read, which actually is the one that I finished last, but that's because I was listening to the audio of it, and that is Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 5th book in the Throne of Glass series, which this is a reread for me. I don't even know how many times I've read the Throne of Glass series, and I've been doing a reread of them on audio. I've never listened to the audiobooks before, so I've been having fun with that. And I just finished this one. This was always my favorite book whenever I did rankings of Throne of Glass. It still could be. I think Kingdom of Ash actually is going to end up being my top one. Like, those were always 1 and 2, and I think they might swap spots on the reread. Not because I didn't enjoy this one as much or like had any issues with it. I just think the more that I sit on Kingdom of Ash, the more I'm like, that book is a masterpiece. Like, it's a genuine masterpiece. And as much as I love Empire of Storms, because I can't really give anything away plot-wise about this one, because like I said, it's the 5th book in a fantasy series following these characters, so like, can't give anything away. But there's so many converging of storylines and like worlds colliding and like threads that have been like laid down in the previous books all starting to come together. Like, it's beautiful. It's so good. The battle sequences are great. The ending is like one of the worst cliffhangers ever. I can't imagine if I had read this back when it was published. Like, thank God I read this after Kingdom of Ash was released, so that way I could like immediately jump into Tower of Dawn and Kingdom of Ash. Although, you know what, I wonder if like the people who read this as it was coming out felt the same way as like me when I read House of Earth and Blood, or not Earth and Blood, Sky and Breath, the second Crescent City book. If you know, you know. I had to take a walk after that book, after I finished that book, and it was the middle of February. I genuinely took a walk, and I live in Wisconsin. Like, I had to get out of my house after finishing that book. So maybe, actually I do maybe know what that was like, but I'm absolutely loving my reread of these. I have Tower of Dawn already purchased, so I'm ready to jump right on in with that one and keep going. Yeah, if you have never read any fantasy books at all, well, and if you're primarily romance reader, then honestly I would say like start with ACOTAR, because that definitely, A Court of Wings, or A Court of Thorns and Roses, that series by Sarah J Maas, because it has way more romance in it, where this is like fantasy with romance, where I feel like A Court of Thorns and Roses is like romance with fantasy, if that makes sense. And then last but certainly not least, I read 2 books, which I feel like I should probably kind of talk about them together because they fit together. I finally did it, guys. I finally read Binding 13 and Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. I don't know how long you guys have been trying to get me to read the Boys of Tommen series, and I put it off for so long because these do not look that big, okay? They don't look that thick of books. Also, these are the floppiest books ever, which almost makes me want to read them physically. I read them on my Kindle. These are huge books. They're both almost 700 pages, and this is just one couple. This is just one couple that we're following, and the entire series is thick like this. And also these do take place like in high school, which that's also not normally my thing. But I get it. I get the hype. I really, really enjoyed these. Now I will say, do I think these are going to end up being my favorites of the series? Absolutely not. I have not even started Saving Six yet, and I would put money on. If I was a gambling woman, I would put money on right now that I'm gonna like saving and redeeming, that those are going to be God tier, because I love Joey so much as a side character. Let's pause, get into Binding 13 in case you aren't aware what this is. So this one follows Johnny and Shannon, and Johnny is a very talented rugby player who is recovering from an injury, although he's not really like recovering at the start of this book, but he is under a lot of pressure because he is going to be, I don't know a lot about rugby and how it works, and it also takes place over in Ireland, right? I don't know how it works, but he's gonna be like a pro athlete, okay? And he's like gonna be recruited and stuff, so he has a lot of pressure on himself to get himself healed, or like well enough to at least be able to play. And he is like in his last year in high school, I think. Again, I don't really remember how the grading system works over there because it's a little bit different, but I think he's like 17. Anyways, Shannon is our heroine, and she has been severely bullied her entire life. So her mom kind of as a final straw is like, fine, I will enroll you in this private school because they are guaranteeing that they'll be able to keep you safe there. You're not going to have any incidents. And Shannon is just very shy. She's very meek. She's very scared. And when she shows up to Tommen on her first day, she does kind of have a little bit of a hope that this school can be a reprieve from her previous schools and from her home life, which you unfold over the course of these 2 books. But then, of course, when she arrives, she's walking across the rugby field and gets hit in the back of the head with a ball and, like, almost knocked out. And that's from Johnny. And that's how their little meet cute goes. He literally almost knocks her unconscious with a rugby ball. But then he kind of takes it upon himself to watch out for her. He kind of sees how vulnerable she is and how she really does need someone just watching her back and kind of being a protector for her, and he kind of steps up and does that. However, he's also like, I'm not going anywhere near her. Like, I can't have a distraction, you know, like, I'm this big rugby player. Like, I need to be just, all of my focus needs to be in on the sport. And also she is like, I think a grade or 2 younger than him too. Like, I think she's maybe 15 when this starts. So he's like, also can't cross that line, can't go there. And then over the course of this book, their friendship unfolds first of all, and then it is more so like kind of towards this book that their romantic really, I mean, they do start getting together in this one, but this one is really, I'd say, like the start of their friendship, and this one is truly like the evolution of their relationship. So I can't say anything about this one because it obviously picks up immediately where this one left off. Now I will say between the 2 of them, Keeping 13 is probably my favorite. I can't tell you how satisfying it was to see how these storylines wrapped up. And specifically Shannon's character growth. I mean, Johnny had growth too, especially with like how he was with his sports and everything and kind of like finding a life outside of them. But truly the Shannon that ends this book is so far and away a different Shannon that we are introduced to in this one. And a huge part in that is her relationship with Johnny, her relationship with her brother, his family, Johnny's family. It was just so satisfying and so worth all of the time and investment that these books take, because they're just very long books, but I truly enjoyed my time with these characters. They feel very real. I cried multiple tears in this book. I did cry at the end of this one. I cried multiple times in this book. And specifically, like I said, as much as I loved Johnny and Shannon, every single time Joey showed up, I was like, he's gonna be mine. He's going to be mine, okay? Like, out of all of the characters that I'm going to be like, that one is the one that is my favorite, it's gonna be Joey. Like, he's so sad, he's so broken, and I'm so excited to watch his journey and watch his. I'm just always a sucker for like a broken, sad character. Like, that is my favorite kind of storyline to read. Y'all know I tend to always latch onto that, and I sense that in Joey, and I'm very excited to keep going with Saving Six. So very glad that I started this series. I totally understand why so many people love them the way that they do. But yeah, like I said, I think the best is only yet to come for me reading this series personally. So anyways, that is the 4 books that I read this month, which is great because you know what? All 4 books I truly, truly enjoyed. They just, you know, were all like longer ones to get through, but I'm really happy with all of the books that I read in July. So that is already it for today's video. I clocked in 13 minutes filming this, which in editing, we'll see what I can shave down. So I'm not mad at that. That was a nice quick video. So anyways, that is it for today. I'm going to film my TBR right after this. I'm probably just gonna go like change shirts quick, which honestly, I might not even do that. But I am gonna film my TBR. So I am just going to be giving you guys 1 video a week. However, because I'm a little ahead and because it is wrap up and TBR time, I kind of still want those to go up in the same week. So I think you're gonna get 2 videos from me this week, and then we'll be back to 1. So that's kind of what I'm planning on doing in terms of like whenever it rolls around, like the first week of every month, doing 2 videos. So we'll see. But anyways, that is it for today's video, and I will see you when I see ya.